You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hello, greetings everybody. It is Wednesday. It is time for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor, my show. I'm Ken Reed, and I am the TV Guidance Counselor. Therefore, this is in fact my show. This is a show where every week I get an interesting guest. They go through my collection of TV guides, which pretty much encompasses every issue from about mid-60s until about the year 2000. They go through it. They write down what they would have watched that week or what they'd like to watch that week if we did have a time machine, which in many ways we do with the internet. But that is a whole different story and debate I don't want to get into about technology here. And then we discuss their choices. And I love my guest this week. My guest is Steve Johnson, and Steve is a special effects master. Steve worked on every movie you love growing up. Steve worked on that movie. He had a hand in making Slimer. He worked on so many great movies. We talk about almost all of them here, I think. It would have been impossible to talk about all of them, but he is a really talented guy, and that age of special effects makeup is something that is very special to me, and I know a lot of people of my generation. I was a completely loyal subscriber to the now defunct Fangoria magazine, and Gore Zone, and Starlog, and Video Watchdog, and followed these special effects makeup guys just to the ends of the earth, and love the magic that they do, and I'm so incredibly impressed by not only the artistry of what they do, but the sort of science behind it. Because, and we talk about this with Steve, they kind of had to understand remote control technology and chemical technology, which I guess would be called chemistry if you weren't an idiot like me, and all kinds of just amazing things and new technologies and constantly having to innovate and come up with interesting things. And Steve is one of the best. And if you are remotely interested in this stuff, which you very well should be, and if you aren't, you will be by the end of this episode, I highly recommend Steve's book, Rubberhead. It is available at stevejohnsonfx.com. He talks about it here, but it is sort of a memoir of working at that time in the special effects industry, and it is fantastic. It's really great, and I cannot recommend it enough. I don't recommend many things on this show as far as books go, not because I'm against reading. It's not a show about books, everybody. It's about periodicals and television, but it is fantastic. If you have any sort of interest in this stuff, go out, get it now. Go to stevejohnsonfx.com, pick it up. It comes highly recommended. You will not be disappointed. I know you will not be disappointed. And you most certainly will not be disappointed with this episode today. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Mr. Steve Johnson.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Steve Johnson, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm really, really good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for doing this. Despite the fact that when I first talked about doing this, you were like, I didn't watch any of this. I was making it. I was busy making it.
So you can throw all your TV guides away.
I did. Actually, they're on fire right now for the listener. There's a trash barrel in the middle of the room.
It's a little cold out there, so what the hell?
We thought, hey, you know what's better than a gasoline-soaked TV guide fire? Nothing.
Well, but despite the fact that I just flipped through them, and every show was Merv Griffin.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about Merv Griffin, let's go.
Merv was huge, which was weird. Although he was not the best daily talk show, but one of the things that I miss from talk shows of that era, which you would literally see like Vincent Price on a talk show with like Shecky Green and Gore Vidal. It would be,
you know what? Mo Howard, when he had a pure white bowl haircut, did the Merv Griffin show. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And he's hysterical. He taught him how to throw pies.
Which is crazy. Like, you would never have on Jimmy Fallon a comedian from the 60s on now with like the latest actress in blockbuster movies. And it was that weird mix that we got that just kind of disappeared by the late 80s. It was like, no, we can't have those people on the same panel.
All right, so clearly you're going to force me to talk about TV Guide.
You may have to.
I was trying to move into another direction.
That's fine.
Did you hear that Rubberhead's coming out? We'll get back to that.
Oh, really? You moved out here when you were like a teenager,
1978. Right? I was 18. As soon as I got out of high school, I got in my car and just hightailed it on.
And you were like, I'm going to do special effects makeup?
Yeah, I didn't know anybody. I'd barely met Rick Baker in 1976, but I said, fuck it, I'm coming out here. Yeah. the Hollywood sign is calling, and I just came right out
from
there.
Texas. Yeah. So how did you get into doing special effects makeup and stuff from Texas? Were you a monster kid or a famous monsters guy? Or?
Well, when people ask Stephen King why he writes, you know what his answer always is?
No.
Because I simply can't not write.
Yeah.
I simply couldn't not make monsters.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time that you saw that stuff, or when it like resonated with you?
Yeah, I was probably 14 or 15, and I saw Dustin Hoffman in Little Big Man.
Okay, which was a Dick Smith makeup, right?
Dick Smith makeup, the most amazing old age makeup ever.
Yeah.
And certainly at that time, it was breaking huge new ground. So, I was like, 15 years old. I go into this darkened movie theater, and I see Dustin Hoffman as a 120-year-old Jack Crab.
Yeah.
And first of all, his performance was outrageous. Secondly, the makeup was immaculate.
Right.
And thirdly, even at 15, I thought, why didn't they just hire a real old guy?
right.
It's just like, what the hell's this about?
Insurance.
But I'm like, I want to do that.
Right.
And
However you do that is
Yeah.
what I want to do. Because that was, Dick Miller kind of invented that technique for that movie, right? Didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. Because he was the guy who, the thing that always fascinated me, sort of following along with special effects stuff as like a Fangoria, Starlog subscriber as a kid, was that these people had to be creative artists, but also like chemists, like mixing things that might blow up.
Scientists, dentists. I mean, you name it. I mean, back then you had to like have your fingers spread in every bit of the business, and you had to be a sculptor, a mold maker, an artist, a scientist, a chemist, all the things like you said.
Which is such it's like being the James Bond of the entertainment industry. You know what I mean? Like, I can do this. Hold on. You have to MacGyver stuff. So it sounds like you were a movies kid. Like, were you going to the movies more, or were you watching stuff that would come on TV? Like, did you have a horror host in Texas growing up that you remember? Or and I can't think of who a horror host would have been in Texas.
I'm sure we must have. No, I don't know. I mean, I was never. I didn't really. The horror movies kind of, except for the old Hammer and Universals.
Right.
I mean, those were the classics,
Yeah.
and I grew up on those. I cut my teeth on those.
Yeah.
But there was kind of a period there where it all stopped until the late 70s, early 80s when Gore came in and Tom Savini and the Friday the 13th stuff.
Right.
And I would race to the theater to see that stuff. And then I would walk out on Hollywood Boulevard. I would walk out of a triple feature of the Friday the 13th movies and go, is that a shadow?
Yeah. Who's behind me? Yeah.
And it really, really bugged me because, first of all, Tom Savini is a genius. He took this art into, he's kind of a magician. You know? He kind of really took it from, like we said, by being a chemist into like, I'm a magician. I'm going to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and you're not going to know how I did it. But I'm going to involve you, and you're going to go, how did I put a spear through Kevin Bacon's neck?
Right, because Kevin Bacon is invulnerable.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I started realizing, I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Why do I want to jump at shadows? This is like a negative workshop, and I kind of pulled away from the whole horror movie thing. I still don't like them. They scare me.
Really? Even though you know how it'll be done, but they scare you.
They do. They scare me, and I just don't like it. Heather, on the other hand, maybe you should bring her over here. She's a huge horror movie fan. Yeah.
Who's the Zito that directed The Prowler? He directed one of the Friday the 13th movies too. I can't think of his first name, but Savini did special effects on those, and he has this crazy story about seeing The Prowler in Times Square in New York, and he talked his way into the theater by being like, I directed this movie so he didn't have to pay. And so they knew he directed it, and the security guard at the theater came up to him after and went, did you really kill all those people? And he was like, no. And he's like, no, it's all right if you did. I know you really killed them. And he really thought that they had like murdered these people and made a snuff movie and were like just showing it in this theater, which is a good indicator of the kind of people that sometimes watch these movies.
Well, it kind of is. And that's my thing. It's like, I always get off a little bit more on creating something that leaves the audience more awe-inspired, as opposed to turning away from the screen in horror, because I want them to look. I want them to be fascinated. I don't want to make them run out of the room.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked for months doing this stuff. I want them to see it. I want them to enjoy it. I want them to really get what we all did, the team of artists that created this stuff.
I guess it would be the difference between someone who paints like photorealistic or someone who creates like surreal painting. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, that does look like a photograph, would be kind of like, it did look like his head got cut off, versus sort of, wow, look at that monster. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like that.
It is. And the Gore approach is more about technique and science, like you said.
Right.
But when you create an alien or something that no one's ever seen and you leave the audience with their jaw dropping, That, to me, gets my dick hard.
Because you've been working on so many memorable movies that were about creature stuff. Like, one of the first movies were you like an assistant on?
Well, you don't want to hear about the first one. You definitely don't want to hear about that.
Now I do.
No, we'll come back to that. But I think that, probably the first one that people would know. I don't know if you've ever heard of a movie called American Werewolf in London.
I've heard people say it. Yes, I think that might be what I was thinking of, was American Werewolf in London. Yeah. Did you go over to London to shoot it, or were you working on stuff here?
I did.
Wow. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, John Landis, the director and writer of that film, just wrote the foreword for my book.
Amazing.
And he insulted me in it.
That sounds like Landis.
I know. He literally took the opportunity in a one-page foreword to insult me.
Yeah.
Which, when he first sent it to me, I'm like, oh boy, John Landis wrote the foreword for my book. This is amazing. He did Blues Brothers. He did all these amazing Animal House. And I'm like, he told me that in Innocent Blood, did you ever see that movie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was Landis's answer to American Werewolf, because obviously that was his, one of his biggest hits. So, years later, now I'm going to insult John.
Do it.
Years later, when he couldn't get a hit, he did The Stupids, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Blues Brothers 2000. Let's stop there.
We've all seen that.
He decided to do a vampire version
With Robert
of American
Loggia?
Werewolf. Robert Loggia, M. Period. And it's a comedy vampire movie as opposed to American Werewolf, which is a comedy werewolf movie. I think it's a great movie.
Yeah.
But in any case, in the foreword to my book, we did this thing, it was long before digital effects, and so that was back when we were trying to pull rabbits out of hats, try to make the audience involved and go, how the fuck did they do that? And so John said, when I first met with him, I read the script and I said, so John, these what should these vampires' teeth look like? And he goes, they don't have teeth. I'm like, what do you mean they don't have teeth? And he's like, everybody's used teeth. We don't need teeth. I'm like, what, are they going to gum them to death? He goes, no. They've got teeth. They just don't have fangs. What we're going to do is we're going to give them really cool eyes.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, Rick Baker did American Werewolf with John Landis and blew the doors off audiences' expectations with the transformation effects in that movie. So I said, okay, here's my opportunity to do the same with Innocent Blood. And so I said, okay, eyes. What do we do? What do you want, John? And he goes, well, how about yellow ones? I'm like, John, are you drunk? Yeah. Everybody's done yellow eyes. He goes, well, how about red? I'm like, come on, John.
Yeah.
Red, please. And I go, I've got it. Because this was right around the time that credit cards came out with a holographic imprint on them. And you could look at your credit card and the little eagle flew out of it. And I'm like, if you can do that on a goddamn credit card, you can do it in a contact lens. So I got with so I said, John, okay, here. John, I can't promise this. But what I'm going to try to do, give me a couple of months, give me $100,000. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to make holographic lenses. So your vampires, fuck their teeth. We will make holographic eyes. Yeah. And he's like, wow, that sounds great. And I'm like, all right, I'll get on it. And so I worked with all the best holographic experts in the industry. And I got close.
Yeah.
I got so close. But at the last minute, they didn't work because of the moisture in the actor's eyes. And I'm like, okay, these can kind of work for a day or two, but then it's not going to, I can't.
You'd have to shoot them very specifically.
I can't guarantee you, John, that these are going to work. And so I go into his office a couple of months later, and I go, okay, John, remember when we talked about the eyes for Innocent Blood, the holographic lens? He goes, yeah, where are they? I'm like, well, they're not going to work, John. And he's like, what do you mean they're not going to work? You promised me holographic lenses. And I'm like, John, you wanted yellow. You wanted red eyes. I said, give me some time. I'll see if it can work.
I imagine more four-letter words.
A few more four-letter words. And so he basically crucified me. And on the drive home from Universal Studios, right down the street, I'm going, okay, John Landis hates me now. This was my opportunity to one-up Rick Baker, and I can't do it. And I pull up to a stop sign, and the stop sign is glowing.
Yeah.
It says stop. And I'm like, that's it. Scotch light.
Yeah.
We can put Scotch light. So I go back, I do a few more mad scientist experiments, and we ended up with Scotch light lenses, which, when you use this whole mad scientist array of things called beam splitters and camera tricks and all that, we got lenses that could glow and change color. And which brings me back to the point of why John insulted me. Because here's what he said in my forward. He goes, this was long before CG, and Steve's idea to use Scotch-Brite was a good one. But sadly, in practice, they ended up just making my vampires look cross-eyed. They did, actually.
Well, cross-eyed can be scary. I mean, have you ever seen Messiah of Evil? There's an albino gentleman in that who's cross-eyed. It's terrifying.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, then fuck John Landis.
Yeah. I'm saying right now, Landis is wrong.
Okay, you know what? I hope John doesn't listen to this podcast. He'll never write the foreword for another of my books again. Ever again.
Would. But, I mean, Landis was the guy who sort of broke open the mold with that horror comedy thing, which had been going on before, but more in a campy way. And I remember seeing American Werewolf in London, and it's truly terrifying. The horror is scary and the comedy's funny. But when you have Griffin Dunn's characters, I mean,
Jack,
he's doing these funny scenes, but it's revolting. And it was such a weird mixture of reactions when you watch it.
It was, and that was a really new thing. And, John was on a roll right now. And we have to mention his son right now, Max.
Oh, yeah.
Max Landis is the god of what's, independent, almost independent, but mainstream cinema right now. Because he will only do original films. Yeah. And I love his work. And John spawned a good one with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not? You're in that environment. I mean, come on.
I know. The problem is, I worked closely with Max and with Stephen King's son, Joe King, Joe Hill. And these fuckers were younger than me when I met them. Right. And now they're more famous than me, and I hate them for that. I fucking hate them. Fuck you, Max and
just watch the opening of Creepshow where Joe Hill gets yelled at by Tom Atkins. Yeah. Atkins comes in.
Heather, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Where Atkins comes in and is all yelling at him and throwing his comic books away, and you'll feel better instantly. That's all.
I know, but these are children, and they're more famous than me now, and they were kids when I met them, and I hate them for that.
Hey, how about that Lock and Key?
Lock and Key, that's a good one.
Yeah, he's a fellow Boston guy. He lives there now. So were you?
Does he? Does he live in Boston?
Yeah. Joe lives in Boston. He does a lot. He'll do a lot of readings and stuff around Boston, which is we get like a disproportionate amount of Joe Hill stuff.
Do you
just because he's there?
Joe's actually a bad reader, and I think that's weird because he's a great writer. I love his work, but he really doesn't perform. Have you heard him perform?
Actually, now that you mention it, when he does a reading, he usually has someone else do the reading, and he'll do a Q&A.
Because he found out pretty quick that he can't read his own work. Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Joe. If you're listening, I'm sorry.
It's quite all right. But that's weird. And you worked on did you work on the Stand TV movie?
Absolutely. I've done like 12 projects with Steven. Yeah.
Yeah. Had you read that stuff before you had worked on
Of course I did. And let me tell you something. Being on set with Stephen King was like having an out-of-body experience. Yeah. Because, my favorite writer of all time, even to this day. Yeah. I mean, that new JFK book, fuck you. You guys, come on. That Stephen is still going strong.
Did you see the adaptation of it?
I didn't. I
haven't seen it either.
I probably should watch it.
I've heard it was good.
But what were we talking about?
The Stand and...
I've done a million movies with Stephen.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite? Like one that you really felt like you nailed what you had read in the book?
Ooh, that's really tough because I did a couple of them with Mick Garris. Yep. Who was a huge collaborator with Stephen. And most notably, I didn't do Sleepwalkers. Okay. Most notably, I actually won 2 Emmys for my work with Mick and Stephen on both The Stand and The Shining.
Which I loved.
Did you like the Mick Garris version?
I loved it.
I don't like it. How many times can you see a rocking chair rock by itself? Come on, Mick. Mick, no, come on. Mick, if you're listening, stop with the rocking chair bullshit.
We've been telling the rocking chair, Mick. It's not the grandmother. But to me, The Shining is a really great Stanley Kubrick movie and a terrible Stephen King adaptation. So when I watch the TV movie, it's such a better... The movie seems to miss the point to me, which is that someone can be corrupted by an evil place because Jack Nicholson is out of his fucking mind from the first frame he's on the movie, which is a different movie. It is great, but I love Steven Weber. Steven Weber.
But here's the thing. I mean, the seed of Steven's original idea for The Shining when he wrote it, not the Mick Garris version, right, was what alcoholism and drug addiction does to a person. Right. And it's planted so deeply and its roots grow so deep in the book, but I don't think it comes off in either Kubrick's version or Mick's.
Yeah, I guess that is one of the differences between adapting something that you can get inside people's heads in a book much more easily to a television or visual medium. You can miss some of that stuff.
Well, this is why I like writing.
Yeah.
It really is, because you could hand the book Stephen King's The Stand or Stephen King's The Shining to you or that director or this director or another one, and you could say make this movie, they'll all make 1,000 different movies.
Right.
It's how we perceive, you know.
Unless it's the script of Maximum Overdrive, and then the only movie that can be made was what was made. That is all
you know
that will
what?
get made.
Steven had to give it a shot.
I know. Well, I had heard that the crew shirts on that just said, "What the fuck are we doing?" He had them.
That is
up.
not nice.
Yeah.
That is really not nice.
Because
if they showed up at craft service with those shirts on, I would have killed them.
But I think that King had them made.
No way.
That's what I had heard. I don't know if that is true. You could probably confirm that more easily than I could.
Well,
but
ended up being a Stephen King interview.
Yeah. Well, I am a huge King fan. And actually, whenever anyone asks me about comedy, which for their benefit, I'm sad that they do, I always recommend Danse Macabre. Because
oh my god, I love that book. I've learned so much about that book. I've learned so much about everything. His King's take on The Incredible Shrinking Man is better than Matheson's original story. It's better than the movie, and I want to make my own movie based on what King says that is really about, but I want to blend it with Friedkin's Bug. Imagine Bug blended with The Incredible Shrinking Man, because and Bug, if you've seen it, right?
Yeah, with the flames, they're like flaming insects, or the one from a few years ago.
Friedkin,
with the two people in the motel room. Yes.
Tiny little movie. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's about paranoia. It's about drug abuse. It's about all this stuff. Ashley Judd, but to blend that with The Incredible Shrinking Man, because The Incredible Shrinking Man, the metaphor there is, I'm a man, but I'm not. And I'm shrinking, and I can't have sex anymore. And you know, when Matheson wrote it, he had like a cupcake on his desk in the basement, and a spider came over to it, and he goes, "That's a great fucking idea."
Yeah.
And I'm so small. Oh my god!
Nothing I can do. It's terrifying. Yeah.
But to blend Bug with The Incredible. Somebody out there is going to steal my idea.
Yeah.
I hope you do it before me, because that's a great fucking movie.
We just wrote it in an envelope and mailed it to ourselves. It's copywritten.
All right, cool.
That's how you do it. I think that's legally binding. But yeah, it's like someone who's paranoid. Are they shrinking? We don't know. Is there a real,
right? Exactly. And do they see bugs? Are there bugs on their skin, or are they panicking?
Were you a Twilight Zone guy? Speaking
huge
of Matheson?
Twilight Zone guy.
So you did. We got to just a little bit of TV.
We can go. Well, where's the TV guy? Yeah. That's not at the Twilight Zone. Is not in there.
Well, the Twilight Zone is a show that is so timeless. There's never been a time since it first aired that it wasn't on, and some station somewhere is always showing the Twilight Zone. And I think part of that is because it's in black and white, and the wardrobe's classic, so it doesn't look as dated. But it's just such a good show, and
every episode means something to everyone.
Yeah,
they are metaphors, which, you know, if you write. If you make films, you know that things kind of have to have at least two meanings, and they always have them in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, and I think it taught a generation of people to be better people.
I think it did too, and that's really, really, really a great way to put it.
Which is amazing. And we, a friend of ours works at Paramount, and she took us on a tour around the lot, and it was the first movie lot I've ever been on, and we walked around the Paramount lot, and my wife and I looked at each other and went, "Night of the Meek." Because it was where that last scene is, where he goes, and it's right there in the New York set in the Paramount lot, and we immediately was the first thing we thought of.
You go down to Hollywood, there's a street called Willoughby. Next stop Willoughby.
Yeah.
And because the writer drove to get to work by Willoughby Street.
It's being here and having grown up in Boston, where so far away from anything remotely Hollywood aside from Spencer for Hire, which they shot for 3 years there. When we come out here, it's never lost to me how crazy it is that everything I ever loved is right here. We're downtown, and it's Night of the Comet. It's just it's everywhere. And the closest thing I ever had to that before was I arranged a business trip to Pittsburgh so I could go to the Monroeville Mall.
Oh, for God's sake!
I mean, I've seen that movie probably 100 times.
Yeah,
and probably not Savini's best work. Not his fault. I blame 3M.
The zombies are blue.
Yeah, but I had been I was in this mall, and I'd never been there, and I knew where everything was because I'd seen it so many times.
The mall's dead now. They closed it.
Is it closed now?
Yeah.
Oh man,
people went in there and they stole bricks from it because of that movie.
I bet.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I went in the early 2000s. It was still sort like the ice rink was the food court, and the J.C. Penney's was still the same. And I'm going down this escalator, and people must have thought I was an immigrant from some country that didn't have escalators because I was like, oh, like, it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. They're like, it's an escalator. But
You're killing me.
oh, I'm sorry. But whenever I'm out here, that's what everything's sort of like. And
It is, and we can practically see the Hollywood sign from. It's right on the other side
Yeah.
of that, but it's right there.
Yeah, and Russ Meyer's house is right up the hill, and you could see it right from his house. And
Really?
the old Russ Meyer's van is parked out front. So I'm like, you could see this Russ Meyer's and the Hollywood sign like right here in the same frame, looking, and I'm like, that's Hollywood. There it is, right there. And it's still lost on me that you can just go there. It's just there. Did that hit you when you first come out here as a movie
It
fan?
did. It hugely did because again, I had no fear.
Yeah.
Like I said in the beginning, Stephen King said I write because I can't not write, and I
Right.
had to get in my Volkswagen 1976 Dasher and drive from Texas to California just to see.
Yeah.
And to be here and to do it, and I had no fear. And guess what? It worked.
Did you just pedal like to the different shops? Were you like, hey, here's my stuff. Give me a job. Like how?
No, I first
Yeah.
knocked on Rick Baker's door and I said, "Remember me from all those years back?" He goes, "Who the fuck are you?" I'm like, "I'm that guy that you met way back at that convention." He goes,
Yeah.
"Go work for Greg Canham for a bit.
Right.
You fucking cut your teeth with him, make your mistakes with him, and then maybe
Right.
I'll hire you."
Right. And Rick Baker was, because Dick Smith was like an older guy, who was sort of grandfatherly to the scene.
Right,
Rick
exactly.
Baker was kind of like the guy where you're like,
He's a
one
young
of
kid
us.
with long
Yeah.
hair and a beard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what always attracted me to him because, you know, you got John Chambers did Planet of the Apes wearing
Yeah.
a tie.
Yeah. Oh, he
I
was a
couldn't relate to
studio
that.
employee.
I
Yeah.
couldn't relate to that. William Tuttle, all these guys. I couldn't
Jack
relate.
Pierce.
I know,
Have a
exactly.
lab coat on.
Right.
yeah.
But Rick Baker was a kid just like me, and that's what drew me out here to Hollywood.
Yeah, and I imagine would have the fandom shorthand where you could talk in terms of other makeups. Like you could be like, oh, it's a little bit like this combined with this, and know what you're talking about instead of, you know, someone who's like, well, I go to work every day in my office with my toolkit.
It was kind of like that, but I was just such a fan of Rick that I cowered in his presence.
Yeah.
So when I asked him how, you know, he and Dick Smith did the makeup on Max von Sydow for The Exorcist,
Yeah.
how did they match the age spots every day? And Rick's like, we didn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but from shot to shot. And he goes, shut up. You just put a brush on and you do it. Nobody
And you're
knows
like,
the difference.
was there a template that you sprayed? It
No,
was
but
like
there
a-
should have been.
Yeah.
Actually, Rick was wrong, and Dick. They should have had a template
Yeah.
because the age spots move.
They
But
move.
they were like, nobody knows the difference.
Well, I know in Army of Darkness they had to do that for Bruce Campbell.
Did
for
they?
his injuries. They had there's footage I've seen behind the scenes where they basically have like you know those really creepy masks. They're just like a clear mask.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like Hollywood. So it was like that, and every time Ash got an injury, they'd like cut out where the injury was. So then the next day they'd like put it on and kind of paint the scar on his face.
That is so funny because I just watched Heather. What was that we watched last night with Johnny Depp in that ridiculous makeup?
What is it called?
Kevin Smith, Yoga Hosers.
Yoga
Have you seen
Hosers?
it?
No.
Okay.
I thought- when you said Johnny Depp in that ridiculous makeup, I was like, Black Mass?
No. Well, don't say that. My good friend Joel Harlow did that makeup, and he
It's
also
a Boston
did,
movie.
He also did the one for Yoga Hosers. But the thing is, Johnny Depp just plays a completely unrecognizable, prosthetically disguised guy, and
Right.
his performance it frees him up.
Yeah.
Because he loves makeup, and
Yeah.
it frees him up to play a part that he could never ever play.
Yeah.
But on purpose, what Kevin Smith and Johnny did on this film is this French character that Johnny plays has moles that just from shot to shot keep appearing in different places on purpose.
Transitional moles.
Yeah, but you've got to have kind of a good eye to notice it. It's like,
Yeah.
but at one point, there's a mole right on the tip of his nose. I'm like, all right, that's enough.
Yeah.
We get it.
You're showing the hand. We get it. For those who didn't notice it, the whole rest of the movie. Have you ever seen Alex Winter's Freaked?
I
Did you work on Freaked? You worked on Freaked. I'm sorry. I've heard. So you didn't answer my question. Did you see it?
Yes, I
but like
saw
with
it.
Keanu Reeves is the dog boy,
Exactly,
and is
yeah.
completely unrecognizable and is really funny. That movie is crazy.
Yeah,
that
it's
is
fun.
some of the best creature designs.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that Alex, that was a really kind of I have to say, at the risk of sounding like the pompous ass that I am,
No,
that
please,
makeup
we
that
all-
Alex wore, it just distorted his mouth like a Big Daddy Roth character. And it also had remote control motors in it, so the ears could move and the lips could twitch. And it was really, really, really fun. And to this day, those motherfuckers over at K&B stole that concept for The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
If you see a zombie from The Walking Dead, they don't have exposed teeth, it's not a good zombie.
Yeah.
They stole it from me.
From Freak. Did you do like the eye and eye, like all the whole thing in that movie? Or
It was split between Tony Gardner
Okay.
and Screaming Mad George and myself, but
Yeah.
I did all the cool stuff.
Yeah, Screaming Mad George has done some bizarre things. Society, I still can't watch.
Yeah, Brian Usna, yeah.
Oh my god, there's things in that are like just gross me out more than anything I've ever seen in my life. Do you have a favorite makeup, like of yours or of someone else's, that you're just like that's the height? That's
No, I don't, because what happens is it keeps changing.
right.
It just keeps changing. And my new favorite makeup is Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, there's a new movie where Gary Oldman, who again is a huge makeup aficionado, he loves to to change into a new person, to wear the skin of another person, not just through his performance, but with prosthetics.
Yeah.
And he plays Winston Churchill, and he is completely unrecognizable physically, and it's unbelievable. And it's one of the really cool things. It's like, you can say digital technology has altered our business. You can say that, the hobnailed boots of computer generated imagery has stomped its way over our industry.
Right.
But what you can't say is that the business is dying, because it's not. It's just evolving and
You're
changing.
always going to need it.
Well, I don't know if we're always going to need it, but I think what's happened is the art form itself has actually become more of an art than a business. And there are people right now in their garages and basements doing it, not because a director is going to aim a camera at it, and not because a producer is going to give them $1 million for it, but because, like Stephen King said, they can't not do it.
They have to do it.
And Gary Oldman plays Winston Churchill in this. The movie's not out yet, but if you look at Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but who played Alfred Hitchcock in the new one?
I can't think of the name.
K&B makeup,
Yeah.
but it's completely.
Yeah.
And in the old days, what director in their right mind, especially with HD, would say, okay, we'll get an A-list actor and just cover him,
Completely unrecognizable.
and we'll put the camera fucking 2 inches from his face,
Yeah.
and you're going to buy it.
Yeah. And
But
you
they do that now.
Because you can, is part of that because people are better at makeups, or that people know how to use CG now to patch the seams a little more, and you can do an integrated
That
thing?
is a good point, because you do have that safety net.
Right.
If there's something wrong, you can always fix it. But 15 years ago, you couldn't.
Right. Or it would look awful if you
Right.
tried to. Oh, the first movie I remember seeing of good blend of CG and practical effects was probably Dark City. That was one that I felt like really just used CG like I
love that movie.
It's one of my favorite movies. Totally
Yeah.
underrated movie too.
It
I think
is,
The Matrix
totally.
got way too much credit for that idea when Dark City did it better about a year earlier. But it's creepy as hell, and the subtle.
I gotta go home and watch that again.
It's a great
now.
movie. It's great.
I don't actually think I've seen it since it came out in the theater, but it left such an impression on me. I dream about that movie.
It holds up. I mean, it absolutely holds up, and it's. I feel like Alex Proyas, I always mispronounce his name, doesn't get enough credit because The Crow he made wasn't what he kind of wanted, for good reason. And Dark City's like the only movie I've seen that seemed like like the movie he wanted to make, and then there's kind of like nothing else after. I'm like, oh man, I want to see.
Yeah.
Because to me that movie's like Blade Runner.
Well, there's your modern day Rod Serling right
yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I mean, Dark City could have been a Twilight Zone episode.
Easily. And someone like Guillermo del Toro, who also is such a huge nerd for Twilight Zone and Night Gallery, which no one likes, but he has an affinity for.
The first episode was good.
Some of them are the one with the what is it? Something Secret Snow is super creepy. And there's one based on a Lovecraft thing that I really like, and I can't think of the name of it either.
Well, you know what? I often, because I love anthologies, and I
Yeah.
often wonder why no one's ever even come close to touching that flaming torch of Twilight Zone. But Black Mirror is kind of coming close now.
It is, and you worked on Monsters, right? Speaking of,
Yes.
yeah. But did
Do
you
we
do?
have to? Talk
I
about
like
that?
Monsters. I like Monsters. It was Tales from the Dark Side. Did you work on Tales from the Dark Side? At
I
all, or
didn't
just
know.
Monsters?
That was East Coast.
Yeah, Tales from the Dark Side was hit or miss, but when they would do their comedy episodes, it was usually so much better than the others. And Monsters kind of
Tales from the Dark Side.
not as brightly lit. It's super creepy. But now I watch it, it's a really bad video inversion of the negative. Side note, my absolute favorite horror movie voiceover guy of all time is Percy Rodriguez, who did, most people know him from Jaws. but he did all of Terry Gilliam's movies and also did like Phantasm and all Charlie Band's stuff. Like he did Crawl Space, Between the Wall and Hell. Crawl Space. He was the Lochnar in Heavy Metal. If you ever saw Heavy Metal, that like glowing green ball that was.
You are going way out in left field right now.
Crazy. Yeah,
you're way big.
Yeah.
What happened to the TV guy?
I know. But Monsters, did you work on? You worked on multiple episodes, right? Or?
I did. Here's the funny thing about Monsters is they had like a set budget, and there was a really smoking hot Asian chick that was the producer, and she would call up everybody in the business in the early '80s and just go, "You want to do an episode?" And we're like, "Yeah, what do you got?" And they're like, "Well, it's on old age makeup," and you'd submit a budget. It didn't matter, and you call you up for another episode. What do you got? A huge blob character. How much money? They had specifically the thing was you get $6,000. That's it. I don't care if it's a beat up makeup or if it's an old age makeup on Leif. I aged Leif Garrett for one episode like overnight, but it didn't matter if you had a half snake woman character or an old age makeup on Leif Garrett. $6,000. And then they would say you can direct it too if you want.
Right.
And so Greg Canham directed an episode. It was crazy. Those were the days.
There's that explains so much. Knowing that, because some of them, like the Fever Man, I think I remember, which was like this big guy with. It was terrifying. I think it might have been the pilot.
Yes, I think that might have been a Vincent Guastini or Gabe Bartalos.
And that was very creepy. And then there was a comedy zombie one with Tempest Bledsoe from the Cosby Show called My Zombie Lover that had some good like zombie makeups that were unusual, more like voodoo-ish looking.
I did that episode.
Did you do that episode?
Was that the one where there was a love spell thrown on this guy? The woman was a voodoo witch, and she goes, "You will love me forever."
Right.
Remember that one?
That had Lorraine Newman in it, I think. And he came back from the grave.
Yes, well, but after he'd been autopsied.
Yes.
Oh God, there's so many funny stories about that. Let me tell you how we did that.
Perfect.
I was trying to break new ground, right? And I'm like, okay, this was before digital effects.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, when he comes, because you're gonna love me forever.
Yeah.
So he ends up getting in a car accident and he gets autopsied, and he was an organ donor.
Right.
So they take all his stuff out. But then he comes knocking on the door late at night, right?
Total monkey's paw.
I really wish this was visual, because what I wanted to do is I had to come up with a way where you could see through the guy's body.
Yeah.
And so I go, well, the only way we can do this is we'll put him on an American Werewolf kind of slant board with wheels on it.
Yep.
So we'll tilt the real actor's bodies back.
Head is kind of.
It's a real head, real arms. We'll put a fake body down. We'll light it from behind so you can see through it. So when he opens lifts his hospital gown up, you can see that his organs have all been removed. But the guy, this black guy, I can't remember his name, a really good actor actually that played the part, was just tortured by this device because we had to wheel him in. We were basically performing the part for him.
Yeah, you're strapped in all day in this thing, right?
Right, and he's got a full animatronic fake body from the neck down. So knock, 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 and she's like, "Who is it?" And he's like, "It's me," and she goes, "Oh, my all-time lover," and he goes in and we wheel him in through the door and he goes, "Too bad you forgot, though." And she's like, "Well, forgot what?" And he goes, in the script, he was supposed to say "my organ donor card" and then lift his hospital gown. So you see that.
Right, like a weird flasher.
But he couldn't remember his lines. So we wheel him in. He goes, "Too bad you forgot, though." And she goes, "Forgot what?" And he pulls his hospital gown up and an intestine flops out like a huge cock. And he goes, "My organ donor parts." And it went on and on and on.
Totally different ending.
It went on and on and on. And we would wheel him back through the door and the director would go, "No, my organ donor card, my organ donor card." And so you'd see this guy on this wheelboard going, "Organ donor card, organ donor card." And action. "Too bad you forgot, though. My organ parts." And then this big fucking intestine. And finally, at some point, the actor started crying.
Yeah, 'cause he
it was
wants out of
pathetic. He wanted out of it. He couldn't remember his lines. It was so. Well, how did we get onto this?
Because we're talking about monsters. There's a 70s exploitation movie called Welcome Home, Brother Charles, and it's about a guy that gets a dick transplant and then gets possessed by the old owner and goes and kills all the people that
That's
wronged
like
this
The
guy.
Hand.
It's like The Hand, but with a penis. And it was like an infamous exploitation movie for years, and you just had only heard of it. And people were like, "Is it a real movie?" And it is.
I got to see that one.
It's a completely real movie, and it's really a gem.
Heather, by the way, Heather, would you like to join us for a second? Come on over. Heather, I can't do it.
Don't say.
I can't say it.
No.
Heather's an actor herself.
Oh, cool.
She starred in an exploitation film. It's called Black Devil Doll.
Oh, Black Devil Dolls.
That's her. That's
That
Heather.
was the most expensive VHS tape ever sold on the second.
What do you mean?
The second market. That movie was so hard to find on VHS because didn't the guy who made it? I forget his name. Yeah,
So you were in it.
he released it himself or something, and someone had found this VHS tape and couldn't believe this movie, and it sold on eBay for like $4,000 a copy of that tape, and it was.
Did it really? You should see the German version. It's hysterical.
You know what? That's true. That's true of every movie, except German movies. My Life as a Dog, not that funny, but the German version of everything else, hilarious. One of the Monsters episodes, and I don't know if
We
you're
back on Monsters?
Sorry, it's the one I have to discuss.
It's probably actually in the TV guide, so we're
probably
maybe
well is,
back
yeah,
on track
yeah.
now. Finally, an hour later.
That's me. I do tangents. It was called Glim Glim, and it was a Christmas episode with Jenna Von Oy from Blossom in it.
I don't remember that
Oh,
one.
it's such a weird movie. I had her on the show. We talked about it. She's like, I had no idea what was going on. The monster looked like a big. You know what it looked like is the Roger Corman. It Conquered the World monster.
Maybe I did do that one.
It was a big green monster with like tentacles, and he was the twist was he was a
That
good guy.
sounds familiar. I might have done that.
teach them-
Was it basically just a big garbage bag
Pretty
inflated
much.
with air?
Yeah, pretty
That
much.
might have been me.
Okay. Was that a day where you're like 6,000? Yeah. When's it due?
No, well, come on. Garbage bag cost 20 cents.
That's true. That's true. You didn't do Creepshow 2, did you?
I didn't. That was Savini.
That's a garbage bag in the.
It is actually,
yeah.
but it works.
It works.
It makes sense.
That one is terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. What was the other? Oh, I remember seeing you. The first time I realized who you were, despite reading Fangoria, was you did segments on the Horror Hall of Fame. I think
I did.
these little-
Did you ever see the Gilbert Gottfried ones?
No. Were they on?
They cut them out.
Oh.
We were shooting that, and I was married to Linnea Quigley at the
Yeah,
time, and she was good friends with Gilbert, and so he came over. She goes, he was in town, he was in LA, and so she came over, and oh my God, we got to put a link on it.
Oh, they're available.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah. I'll put a link on
search
the
it.
Guidance Counselor.
Gilbert
Yeah.
Gottfried, Linnea Quigley, Horror Hall of Fame.
Yes.
It is so goddamn funny because it's one of those things where Gilbert just walks into frame because he was just there at the
Yeah,
studio, and he just walks into frame and started ad-libbing, and I'm there in a lab coat trying to be a scientist, trying to be serious, and it was one of those old kind of TV shows where the host is trying not to laugh,
Yeah.
and I couldn't help it. He was killing me, and he wouldn't shut up, and I finally literally didn't know what to do, so I just get up and leave frame, and Gilbert stands up, walks in my chair, and keeps going.
Oh, yeah.
He just wouldn't shut the fuck up.
That's what comedians do. If you're fueling it at all, they will not stop. It's like the Terminator. They will not stop until you're laughing.
Right.
And the more you laugh, the more they go. But I mean, I remember you showed like how to do a bullet wound with mortician's wax and all
with
that kind of
Linnea.
stuff.
That was with Linnea.
Yeah, that was great because you would get these sort of tutorials, but they'd be magazines. So seeing someone actually do it on TV was something I had never seen before.
Yeah, it was really funny because it was kind of making a joke out of the whole thing, but also allowing people to learn.
Right. So it was entertaining, but it didn't seem like a PBS show. So it was still kind of irreverent and entertaining. How did that come about? Did they ask you to do that, or did you kind of pitch that?
I did that I didn't pitch it. I did it for 3 years in a row, and I think the first year they came to me,
Right.
and they kind of had something scripted, and we shot it in my studio, and then they're like, "Holy shit, this guy is a wannabe actor. Let's just keep calling him back."
Was that true? Did you want to be an actor?
Well, at least on the Horror Hall of Fame. I did.
Yeah.
But I got crucified for that because
Really?
we used to. Yeah, we used to air those up at the amphitheater here at Universal, and when you put yourself out there and you try to do something different.
Oh yeah.
Like with now Rubberhead, if
Yeah.
sometime we can talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You fucker.
Yeah. You want to start Rubber? Tell us
Well, no,
about
but what happened up here is that guy's just an effects guy, and
Who does he think
why
he is,
Yeah,
kind of
who
thing?
the hell does he think he is being an actor? So you got that. Savini gets it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because people are like, "Oh, you're an effects guy. You're an actor. What are you? Do one thing right."
But he's acted in stuff like Martin, where he's amazing.
He is good. He's really good.
and is super intense, and from Dusk Till Dawn. But I think Horror Hall of Fame was the first one, 88, because it must have been the same year he did Nightmare on Elm Street 4, maybe.
I have no idea.
It could have been
senile.
because I remember they aired a big making of that on MTV of all things.
The making of the Horror Hall of Fame, really?
Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Oh, right.
And so it
I was in that.
Yeah, so it had the chest bursting thing you did at the end there.
Linnea was one of those.
Yep. And that I was like, oh, I wonder if they were like, oh, this guy's good on camera. This is around the same time.
I have no idea. When you get to be 60 years old like me, have someone ask you about something that happened 30 years ago, and let's see if you remember.
Oh, yeah. I always equate it like if someone's like, hey, remember when you worked in that office and it was like a Tuesday and you made this awesome stack of copies? And they were the best copies. And the toner was perfect. How did you get that toner right?
That's a really great analogy. I'm going to steal that.
And please do. So let's talk about Rubberhead.
Let's talk about Rubberhead.
Yeah. Tell us.
Ask me a question.
What is Rubberhead?
Rubberhead is a book. It's a series of books, and I've been working on it for years now. And kind of, again, I think that there are two types of writers. One type of writer writes for themselves,
right?
The selfish type. The other type writes for everyone that's going to read their book, and I'm the selfish type. I started to write
the best of us are.
I started to write this book, this series of books, about 5 years ago, to kind of exercise my demons, which is why a lot of people write.
Right.
But then ultimately, it kind of transformed into something where I think now it's I'm writing for other people, because what's ultimately going to happen? This is a true, no holes barred, brutally honest look at the effect, the heyday of the effects industry in the glory days, the 80s and 90s. And it will serve for decades as an open window for fans of this kind of stuff to look through and go, wow, that's what it was like? Because no one in their right mind would do this, because I crucify myself. I mean, when I say it's brutally honest, it's mostly brutally honest about me. I mean, I destroy Lawrence Kasdan in Volume 1. But he deserves it. Yeah, I'm really nice to Paul Thomas Anderson because he deserves that.
Right.
So it's not like I'm a bitter bastard. I'm just saying this is what happened. This
you're
is
being
what
fair.
happened.
Like you're not trying to. What did you work on with Paul Thomas Anderson?
Magnolia.
Oh,
raining
Magnolia,
frog
the frog
sequence.
rain. Yeah, earlier today.
10,000 frogs.
Referenced that.
Did you?
Because it's raining so hard, I'm
biblical,
just waiting for the frogs. Yeah. So you made all those frogs.
10,000 of them.
10,000 frogs. Yeah. And only a special effects guy could have a director come to him and go, I need 10,000 rubber frogs. And you're like, when do you need it?
Yeah.
You're like, why? Just nope. I'm on board.
Well, yeah, and my question to Paul was always, because, Boogie Nights was a transformative film experience for me. I think the guy's a genius. I think he's got class and style and an incredible storyteller.
And an amazing TV and horror pedigree through his father, Ernie, who was the voice of ABC for years and was...
Was he?
Yeah, and he was a horror host.
Well, maybe that's where the character in Magnolia came from.
It is. He was the guy who you would go, this week on the...
That explains it.
That's his father, Ernie Anderson. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that,
and he
actually.
was Goulardi, I think. The horror host for years.
How do you like that?
Yeah. Guy, he was from Lynn, Mass, and he used to be a comedy partner with Tim Conway.
Another guy who, when you see him live, tries to keep from laughing, which is always the funniest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I asked Paul, I'm like, well, why are these... he goes, I need 10,000 frogs, and here's the script. I'm like, well, why is it raining frogs?
Yeah.
He's like, don't you ever ask me that question again.
Right.
Just make the goddamn frogs.
Yeah. Which I guess is all you need to know.
It's perfect.
You may enjoy this from the other side of it. I used to go to the movies every Tuesday when I was in college, and Tuesday I had a day off, so I'd go to first showing of stuff because there'd usually be nobody in the theater. And Magnolia was such a long movie that the
only movie I've ever worked on that I wish was longer. A lot of stuff got cut out of it. I could watch that movie until the end of time.
Jason Robards is so good in that. Right. Something wicked this way.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is great.
And I'm not a Tom Cruise fan, but he's brilliant.
Well, he's basically playing Tom Cruise in that movie.
Right.
So it's why he's so good in it. But so I go to see that movie, and the first showing, I went to the second showing, and the first showing was so long that we crossed paths with the audience leaving the first showing because they didn't have time to change it over. And it was me and 4 other people I didn't know going in that were older people. And one of the old guys asked someone coming out of the movie, "How was the movie?" And this guy goes, "Pretty crazy." And he goes, "I won't stand for crazy." And he changes his ticket. What? He went and saw the Cider House Rules instead because this guy told him the movie was
3 syllables?
Yep.
Pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy.
No, can't have that.
He was not. He was like, "I'm not doing crazy. No way." And they changed the ticket. I thought it was the funniest thing. But then I watched that whole movie and I'm like, yeah, that old guy would not have liked this movie. I'm thinking he would not have enjoyed this.
So brilliant. And to me, I think, because I kind of closed my company 2 2006. Most people retire when they've got enough money to live out the rest of their life. I just said, fuck it, we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
But, I want to work with people now that I appreciate and that appreciate me and mutual respect. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm working with another guy right now that I really like.
Oh, great.
But, actually, no one ever asked me this question, and they go, well, what's the favorite character? And of course, I have to say Slimer.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge? Of course, you have to say the Aliens in the Abyss. But
Right.
my favorite movie, actually, I just made a bunch of fucking rubber frogs, and it's Magnolia. It's not that my work is the best I've ever done, but I'm just so proud to have been involved with that film. It's a beautiful, fantastic, powerful, moving film.
And the sound, the Amy Mann sound, everything about it was perfect.
Yeah.
The movie got a pretty good amount of attention when it came out, but I feel like it's ripe for like this rediscovery. And Ricky Jay, and just speaking of magicians, it's such a great movie. And did you keep any of the frogs? Do you have some from the movie?
I didn't. We auctioned all my shit away, and I think one guy somewhere in Alabama bought like 9,999 of them.
I'm going to use these for bait frogs.
Maybe.
Or he needs a cover story for his wife. He's like, I'm out frog hunting. Look, I got all these. It's just a whole bucket of frogs. Busy night. He's out just
killing
drinking.
me.
You're helping a guy fool his wife, and that's really the most rewarding thing that you can.
It is.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was obviously you made Slimer. Was that here, or did you go to New York for that? Because I know they shot some at the Biltmore, right?
Yeah, they did, but we didn't shoot a whole lot on location. Most of it was shot down at the Fox lot, and most of our stuff was shot at the Boss Film Studio, which was the special effects company I worked at.
Right.
I did go to New York, and the only thing we shot on location there was the zombie cab driver.
Right. Yeah. Which there's a huge online debate about now.
What's that?
Because this is the world we live in now, and people are like, it's a zombie. It's not a ghost. Why is it in the movie? What's happening? And then there's all these like forums of people debating whether it's a zombie or a ghost. And if it's a ghost and a zombie are the same,
ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Completely ridiculous. People get in like heated pages and pages of arguments.
First of all,
things like
guys, not to let you down, but it wasn't a zombie or a ghost. It was a fucking foam rubber puppet.
It's a puppet.
It was basically a Muppet.
That's a whole different thing. They're like, wait a minute, puppets are invading the Earth, and what do we do? Did you see the new Ghostbusters? Did you go see the new one?
I did.
Did you enjoy it, or what?
I did. I waited a long time to watch it because I heard the backlash and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I don't have a whole lot of bad things to say about it because the thing is, Ghostbusters is an iconic film, right? The original. Yeah. So what if you have a dream one night about Ghostbusters and it was slightly different than the movie from the 80s? Would you fucking say that it was the worst dream ever? No. It was just another alternate reality. Calm down, guys.
Yeah. Your movie's still there. Like, I forget who the author was.
Stephen King, once again. They say.
They're all on my shelf. The books aren't ruined.
Don't you think everybody's ruining your movies? How do you feel about that? Because nobody ruined my books. My books are right there.
Yeah, they're not hurt at all. Except maybe Running Man. I actually really like Running
Man. Overdrive.
Yeah, Maximum Overdrive. Thankfully, not a book. He needs to do a book version of that, because I think they made a big deal out of that. It was like his first original screenplay or something, or maybe that was Sleepwalker or something. Very confused by these things. Is there anything you watch on TV now? It sounds like you maybe watch The Walking Dead, or is there anything that you watch?
Oh, God damn it, Baskets
with Zach Galifianakis, right?
Yeah. And we missed it last night, Heather. Can we watch it tonight? Can we pull it up? God damn it.
Louis Anderson too, right? Louis Anderson.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's so fucking ridiculously funny. And it's just so subtle. Louis Anderson's performance is so subtle. And so is Zach's. It's just it's brilliant, and it's slightly off kilter, and it's just ridiculous. And I'm a huge fan of that show. I know The Last Man on Earth. There's a bunch of
Do you gravitate towards comedy stuff, it sounds like, more than any sort of horror?
Yeah.
Would you ever envision Rubberhead as like a Mad Men style TV series?
Absolutely. And there have been so many people. I mean, never mind Mad Men, Californication. Right. But you take it to the 80s. You've got the music. You've got the hair. You've got all the effects. Yeah. You've got the crazy Landis directors. I mean, I have to, when I write visually,
Right.
because I've read how many thousands
Yeah.
of scripts, right? So it's just inherent in me. So when people read the book, they're like, holy fuck, this should be the greatest movie ever. I'm like, well, we got to get the rights from Ghostbusters to do it.
You'd have to have it's Slumer. He's
I don't make him
completely
pink
different.
instead of green.
Yeah, which they did with Permanent Midnight.
Did they?
Jerry Stahl movie, because he worked on Alf. And so in those scenes, they have like a green fuzzy alien that's not quite
Oh, that's
Alf.
so funny. But no,
still
I
works.
could definitely see this. And I'm not, listen, I'm obviously my own biggest fan, but anytime anybody
have to
gets a look at this book, they're like, God damn, that
Yeah.
needs to be not
That's
just
what I
a
thought
movie,
of.
but an actual series.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like the day-to-day.
I mean, and now is the time to do it. I mean, with
Yeah.
Stranger Things and this incredible rabid kind of nostalgia for the 80s and handmade creations, this could be good.
Netflix greenlit 77 series this season.
Sweet mother of
77.
God.
They spent
Why
two-
didn't they greenlight Rubberhead?
That's what I'm saying. They still are. They spent $3
Well, get me in there.
billion on new shows.
Holy fuck.
It's an arms race between them and Amazon, and they all want to be the last man standing with just the content. And this reminds me of the early days of cable,
Yeah.
when we needed 5 anthology series or whatever, and they just wanted content. And I think we're getting some great stuff because of that. Did you see any of the animated of Ghostbusters stuff or the Slimer stuff when you were there? Because that'd be so weird if a creature you made it now like a children's cartoon.
It's a refrigerator magnet, a coffee cup. Don't get me started.
Yeah. I would imagine that would be.
If I only would have nabbed 1/2 of 1% of the rights to that thing.
Which almost no one except for Chris Wallace got to do
Yeah.
or anything.
Did Chris get some
He got
rights?
Gizmo.
Really?
He got a
well, no
point on
wonder he
Gizmo.
doesn't work anymore.
He didn't have to. He directed the flight too because he wanted to, and he doesn't have to work anymore.
You know, I tried. Rick Baker used to. I mean, Rick made more money on Thriller than any movie
bet.
he ever did because Landis and Rick are good friends.
Yeah.
So he gave him a profit percentage on that. And I tried after that because I'm like, oh, this is what
That's
Rick
how you do
Baker's
it.
doing. That's how you do it. But they laughed in my face for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
They're like, are you fucking kidding
We'll
me?
hire someone else. Forget it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't need you.
Yeah. Ugh, that's brutal. That's brutal. What would be one that you're like a character you created that you're proud of, that you were like, that's the one that I would have wanted a piece of, or that like was you up there, you know? I mean, everything probably is, but
Well, no. I mean, obviously Slimer.
yeah, that is a good one.
You got to read the chapter in my book.
Okay, yeah.
Because what happens is because the book is kind of the blend of memory and imagination, which I think all memory is.
Oh yeah.
Because
It's
when you
fluid.
remember something, you're not really remembering it. What you're remembering is your last memory of it. But then that memory is just a memory of the one before that and before that.
Yeah.
So
it refines as it goes
exactly.
along.
So, leading all the way back to the actual event. So in this chain that goes back 30 or 40 years, these links twist and break. And then
Right.
you blend them with your imagination. And that's exactly what I did in this book because it makes it more fun for the reader too, because the book all happens in present tense and it puts you as a fly on the wall in the room. So each chapter is basically a little short film.
Right. You're not, although you are inherently, because you're looking back now, but you're not doing it from you now. It's you then kind of reading what was going on at the time instead of like, I knew if I had known then, or like thinking about it now.
No,
different.
it's all present tense. It's
Yeah.
there. You're in the trenches with me. And it makes it really exciting, I think, for the reader. Because, when you tell a story in past tense, you inherently know that the author and the narrator is okay.
Yeah.
But if you tell it in present tense, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
It makes it so much more exciting for the reader, I think.
That's why Unsolved Mysteries terrified me and Rescue 911 was funny. They never played calls where people were injured, and Unsolved Mysteries was terrifying. Is there, it'll wrap you up in a second here, but is there any creatures or designs from movies or things you watched when you were a kid that you were like, I would love to redesign that, or I would love to get a whack at taking
That's a really, really good question. God damn. Oh, fuck. How about all of them? I don't know.
the Tingler?
Well, Rick Baker did it on Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an interesting thing. I'm going to answer your question like Donald Trump would. I'm not going to
You're
answer
gonna
it.
hit me and then
No, I'm not going to answer it. I'm just going to tell you what I want to tell you. If I can even remember my train of thought. But if you look at the original John Chambers Planet of the Apes, the movies that came out in the early 70s, they were groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It launched a lot of careers. But, I was a kid in the theater, and this is why Little Big Man blew me away, because, Planet of the Apes came out at the same time. I'm like, they just look like masks stuck on people's
You
faces.
can see their skin underneath sometimes. Yeah.
They're immobile masks.
Paul Williams
Sure.
doesn't even have makeup on.
Right. I mean, sure, the edges are blended, but they don't. And then the Tim Burton Rick Baker thing came out, and you could not ever possibly create better 8 makeups than he did with orangutans. I mean, the gorillas, they're beautiful. And then when the digital version came out, before it came out, and I heard they were doing these apes digitally, I'm like, that's it.
Yep.
It's over.
We're done.
That's it. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to jump off the goddamn bridge with Tony fucking, what's his name? Scott.
Tony Scott, yeah.
Because the one thing you can actually pull off is an ape makeup on a fucking human being.
Yeah.
And now they're doing it digitally too. But the minute I went to the theater and I saw the cameras tracking and I saw the performances that you could never, ever get with prosthetics, I'm like, all right, it's all over.
Right.
So I did not answer your question, but I said something interesting.
That is interesting. That it was. Although one of the things that that CGI I never buy is like hair, or like fire, or like things that move in natural ways that aren't.
You give it a couple of days.
Yeah.
Come on, calm down. I mean, listen. Back when digital was starting to, as I've already said, rear its ugly head. I did the movie Anaconda.
Oh yeah.
And they said, listen, we need you to do all the big snake stuff because we can't handle interaction with water. Well, guess what? They can do that so easily now.
Yeah.
And it just takes a matter of time.
Yeah,
and digital technology, no matter how much we fight it, it's not just my business that's been affected by it. Look around.
Oh yeah, it's automation. It's like a car plant.
Everything. I mean, self-driving cars are going to change the world in ways we can't even imagine. But digital technology is the vein through which the future of entertainment will flow.
Yeah.
We can't deny it. I mean, look what they just did in the new Star Wars thing. They're bringing dead actors back to life.
Yeah.
And everybody says, well, why did they do that? Why didn't they do a hybrid, or why didn't they do a prosthetic makeup on an actor that looks like him? And I know why they did. They did it because they could, because they're forwarding the art.
And I don't think they have to pay Peter Cushing to have him be in the movie.
No, but they should, because the Screen Actors Guild pays puppeteers.
Right.
I'm still, one of the reasons I'm still able to put gas in my car is I was a puppeteer on Spider-Man 2.
Right.
With the Dr. Octopus character.
Right.
But the digital guys don't get that.
Right.
And they're the ones that really are performing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I pulled a lever one day 10 years ago. I'm getting checks for $10,000 every 4 months.
It's like you're in a carpenters union. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been great talking to you, and I'm a huge fan of your work, so it's been great to talk to you.
Well, no, this has been really fun, and I'm sorry we tossed your TV guide concept right out the window.
Here's the great thing: is it's my show, so we can do whatever I want.
The police.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, baby, I see you in my TV set, yeah, baby, I see you in my TV set. I cut your head off and put it in my TV set.
There you go, Steve, man's genius. I have no skills, and I'm always impressed by people who are incredibly artistic and amazingly skilled in the work that they do. And Steve is one of the best. If you are a fan of horror movies at all, and you've been picking up any of the Shout Factory, Scream Factory Blu-ray editions of stuff recently in the last year or so, Steve pops up on those all the time. The Poltergeist 2 one, things like Night of the Demons. He is all over those, and he always has some interesting and insightful things to say, and I always enjoy his stories, which is one of the reasons I was very happy to have him on this show, and even more happy to have him on the show due to hearing the you forgot my organ donor parts story, which made me laugh uncontrollably. I cut out about 40 minutes of just me laughing. That's a bit of a lie, but I love that story. So again, buy Rubberhead, his book. It's great. Go to stevejohnsonfx.com. You will not be disappointed. And you can go to tvguidancecounselor.com as well. I'll have links to all of the things that I talked about there. If you forget URLs when I'm just putting them in your ears, you can link to them there. You can also email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or at canadicanread.com. icanread.com being my stand-up comedy page, where you can find out where I'll be doing shows or buy any of my stuff if for some crazy reason you want to. You can also tweet to us at TV Guidance, or go to Facebook, just search TV Guidance Counselor and join the group there. You can like it, you can talk to us, whatever you want or whatever you don't want. Hey, it's up to you. Whatever, it's a spicy meatball. I am a little punchy today, in case you didn't notice, so I'm just gonna stop talking now. But I'll see you again next week for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
My organ donor parts.